And it's only with the roughness of the eye that we think that every situation is the same. I'm sure you know old people who walk around, they're like, I've seen it all. I've seen it all, nothing's new. Because if you assume everything is going to be the same, then that's what you're going to notice. That's what you're going to see. If instead you can see the world for what it is, which is constantly changing. This outward world is a constant whirlpool. Things are changing constantly. Everything is in flux. Nothing stays the same. Nobody steps into the same river twice. Either you've changed or the river has changed. There's always something new. And that's just the outside world. Think about the inside world of emotions and turmoil. Some of you right now are going through some incredible turmoil, inner struggle and difficulty. Of course you are. How could you not be? I would encourage you at this point to process things, because that's one of the things that makes you fully human. Not to block it out and ignore it. Anything that you're blocking out and ignoring right now is going to show up again. Probably a year from now, 2 years from now, even 10 years from now. And at night, you're going to knock on your mind, and then that thing that you never really processed or dealt with is going to keep creeping back up and hitting you. You process it, you cultivate it, because all of these things are to become fully human. Every emotion that you're feeling, love, hate, anger, sadness, curiosity, uncertainty, questioning, all of that, to process it is to become fully human. But if you find yourself distracting yourself all the time, just like if you find yourself on autopilot, fast forwarding all the mundane moments of life, you miss out on a lot of opportunities to grow and become better. And as much as it sucks right now, what can you do with it? You can make something positive out of it, which is to have the ability to be there for other people, but you can't do that until you process it yourself. You can't give away $1 million until you have $1 million. You can't help people find psychological and emotional comfort until you can do it yourself as well. And so cultivate it, all of it. All of it, not some of it, not most of it, not a lot of it, but all of it. It's very difficult, yes. And this is why some people become more fully human than others. If you're somebody who's had to move a lot of times in your life, trash bags have a different connotation to you than they do to other people. And if you know, you know. And so having a house means having security. Having a place to live is not necessarily security. It's having, it's like a step towards security. In other words, at least you know that you have a place to go to today. But at any moment, landlord could raise the rent, could evict you, and then you now have to find a new place to stay, and then a new place to stay, and you're constantly having to move around finding new places to stay. Whereas having a house that you own is a sense of security. That house is always going to be in the same place, and you always have a place that you can go to. You have a place that you can go to that if you don't like the color of the wall, you can paint it. If you want to put, I don't know, an inflatable Santa in your yard, you can. Assuming you don't have a homeowners association. But largely it represents stability, and then that gives you a base from which to grow now, if that makes sense. It also allows you to create wealth, which is another way of viewing a house. People can view houses as investments. We buy this now, we fix it up, we sell it, we make money, we move on, move on, move on. But that isn't so much a sense of stability, but what that is a sense of control, at least. It gives you an ability to own this house, to own this place, and to choose to move on when you want to, when you're ready to. And so that's why I ask about why having a house or having a home be important for a couple as a goal. But I ask that word cultivate because it's a really important word generally. Because not even just in this context, but even in terms of like, I use the example of cultivating a garden. If you plant seeds in a garden, you dump water there, and then you just sit there and you wait, and you're like, how come it's not growing? You've got to give it a chance to grow. If things start, let's say you plant tomato bushes, and then the first crop starts to come out, and before it's ready, you pull it off the vine and you start to eat it, and it's not ready yet. It's not going to be very satisfying. You've got to give it a chance to grow. if it's going to become anything in life, you've got to give it a chance to grow. Anybody in here a really patient person? Yeah. Anybody in here a really, really impatient person? Yeah. And that's the hard part. It's that waiting. It's that in-between time. You wish you could fast forward. I think this brings it to my mind. Have you ever seen the movie? I think it's called Switch. It's with Adam Sandler. It's when he has remote control, right?
Click.
Click, not Switch. Sorry, Click. And I've never actually seen it before. I know the premise of it. And I saw this scene because he can go forward, not backward, though, right? That's the idea behind it, yeah. So when he's driving to work, he fast forwards over it, and he's like all excited, like, "Oh wow, I can just fast forward over all the boring parts of life." Any of us are hearing this, we can already imagine what happens. He fast forwards over so much of life that he finds himself as an old man wondering where life went. Because all of those moments he fast forwards over all the mundane moments, but so much of your life is mundane moments. Mundane meaning like you're, like waiting for your food at McDonald's, or you're stuck in traffic, or you're sitting in your English class. It's the parts of your life that you wish you could just get past and fast forward over. But if you fast forward over all those parts of life, you find yourself at the end of life wondering where all of the time went. And that is not an argument for saying, therefore, appreciate the moments so much as it is to say, make the most of those moments, because that is the bulk of your life. The shortness of your life is skydiving or going to Disneyland. Those are like little peaks of your life, but there are these massive parts in between. And a lot of people do this, by the way. They fast forward over these parts of life. Some of you are already probably experiencing this a little bit. Like, doesn't it seem like Christmas is coming sooner and sooner every year? And there's actually a psychological reason for that, which is that it's a smaller and smaller percentage of your life. Remember when you were 6 and it seemed like Christmas took forever? That's because Christmas was 1/6 of your life, the distance between Christmases. And then when you were 10, it was 10% of your life. Well, once you're 20, it's 1/20th of your life. Once you're 50, it's 1/50th of your life. And so the kind of like the reference points of your life start to narrow and narrow and narrow. And it seems like, oh my gosh, it was just Christmas. What happened to all that time? And that's a really good, legitimate question too, by the way. What happened to all that time? Because there's one thing that you can never get more of, and we hear it all the time, it becomes a cliche, but I would encourage you to internalize it and make it matter sooner, because you'll have fewer of those click moments towards the end of life where you're wondering where all the time went. It's to make the most of the days. Doesn't mean to do crazy stuff necessarily, but to appreciate, to be able to find something that you can appreciate in every day, and literally in every moment. It's hard to do for some people, but once you get the habit of it, it's pretty easy to do, because you get into a habit of appreciating things, and not just like, oh, I'm glad I have this time right now, but you find something funny in the moment. You find something interesting. You find something that can make you grow. Like even like in a class, if mathematics is really, really boring to you, just understand it's really interesting to some people. Why is it interesting to some people? Find out why it's interesting to them. Try to not just by asking them, but by thinking about it. Try to put yourself in another person's shoes. And once you can kind of do that, you can expand the scope of your own life, but then you also learn to appreciate things like that. It doesn't mean you're gonna become a mathematician, but you aren't gonna be sitting there like drooling on your hand waiting for math class to be over. You gotta be there anyway. I think about it, it's one of those things that struck me at one point where if I were to ask you, tell me about your math class on Friday, let's say, whatever. I wonder how many of us could say, oh, we did this and we did that. A couple of you maybe, but largely it's like, Any of you ever have parents, when you get home at the end of the day, they ask you, so what'd you learn today? And you're like, nothing. What'd you learn today? Nothing. What'd you learn yesterday? Nothing. The day before that? Nothing. If that was true, you would just be standing there just not able to talk or even breathe. You do learn something every day, but it's that you have to reflect on it. Because when you reflect on it, then you can realize, oh yeah, this happened, or that happened, or this funny thing happened. Like you're gonna find that, I had a student one time was saying that I had stories for everything, and I don't know if this is still their reputation, but people used to believe that I make up stories. I don't make up any stories, man. I don't have to. Every story I tell you is 100% true, 100% legitimate. And yeah, I have a story for everything, because every day has something like that. But the thing is so do you. You just haven't told your stories yet. They're there. Maybe you didn't even notice them. Like I was telling a class, I don't remember if I told you guys this, I'll be fast with it, but a few years ago, I was in the other building over here. It had to have been like 10 years ago now, I guess. There was a teacher who was using my room during my prep period, and she was a first-year teacher. She had like the math class from hell, man. It was a terrible class. It was like a remedial class, and she would try to talk, and it was just bad. One time I came back, and I knew a couple of students in the room. One time I went away, came back. When I came back, she was gone. And there's some other like adult in there, and she was just like smiling like I was supposed to know what happened. I have no idea what happened. At one point, a student comes over, and he's like holding his backpack. I'm sitting at the desk. He's like, "What's up, Scan?" I'm like, "Hey, what happened to so-and-so?" I don't know. She like got mad and left. What happened? She was just like, I don't know, like something, and I have to put up with this, and like yelled at us, and like took her basket and she left. So where'd you go? Well, I went to get something to eat, but wait, go back and tell me. You had a teacher who had a nervous breakdown and rage quit right in front of you? I don't know, something like that. Doesn't that seem like an interesting thing that happened in a class? And you guys ever have a teacher who just like flipped out, rage quit in front of you and stormed out? Yeah, that's an interesting story. But when that happens, at least it should be something that stands out to you like, that's not every day. But some people will have something as dramatic as that happen, and they're just like, what can I go on? Years ago, there was over at the mobile station before they remodeled it. There was a payphone right in front of the door when you go into their little like market there. It used to be tiny, and some of my students were there, and they were telling me this story. That there was a payphone next to the door, and they were like messing with the payphone, whatever, just bored, waiting for their ride. And a cop car just goes, and slams on the brakes in front of them and bails out. And is asking them, when'd you guys get here? What'd you get? And just like to question them. And they're like flipping out. Like they have no idea. They think the cop's showing up because they're messing with the payphone. Nah, the cop ends up going inside. There was an armed robbery inside that little market. That was like from here to the door, away from them. The guy walked in there with a gun and was ordering a guy around and stole the money. Isn't that interesting? And yet they didn't even notice it happened because they weren't looking around. They were so focused on messing with this payphone. In other words, there are these things that happen around you all the time. And yet, unless you kind of like stop for a moment and see it, and then even cultivate those memories and appreciate them, so much of life goes past you. And it's easy to think, therefore, well, nothing interesting happens. Everything is so boring. Everything is so... I hate saying this because it sounds angry, but understand the heart from which I'm saying this. If you're bored in almost any situation, it's your fault because you're not seeing the things that are there that could be interesting. It isn't always going to be... It doesn't matter like sitting there just entertain me. No, of course not. But instead, taking it upon yourself. Something interesting has to be happening here. If you're ever bored in this class, just stop and look around and even point. You guys are just flipping weird, man. You guys do some of the weirdest stuff when you're sitting there with your friends and you think no one's watching. And if you just sit there and listen, you're going to realize that sound bounces off of these walls. You hear all kinds of interesting off-the-wall stuff, man. You really do. If you just stop and pay attention to it, but if you're just focused on your own world, which is fine, you miss everything that's happening in everybody else's world. Instead, if you expand it, not like, to be chismosa, but just to listen to what's going on around you, you're going to see there's a lot of fascinating, interesting things going on around you, man, in the whole world. Like it's even like every leaf that you see is different from the other leaves. As I say that, I look out my window right now and I notice that the bushes that were out there are now gone. Well, that's interesting. There used to be these bushes that I could look out there and I'd see these leaves. They're gone now. I didn't even notice when maybe today's the first, maybe they were taken away during the weekend. I don't know. But isn't it strange that I'm in here every single day? And it's only with the roughness of the eye that we think that every situation is the same. I'm sure you know old people who walk around, they're like, I've seen it all. I've seen it all. Nothing's new. Man, you're missing so much at that point. Because if you assume everything is going to be the same, then that's what you're going to notice. That's what you're going to see. If instead you can see the world for what it is, which is constantly changing. This outward world is a constant whirlpool. Things are changing constantly. Everything is in flux. Nothing stays the same. Nobody steps into the same river twice. Either you've changed or the river has changed. There's always something new. And that's just the outside world. Think about the inside world of emotions and turmoil. Some of you right now are going through some incredible turmoil, inner struggle and difficulty. Of course you are. How could you not be? And I would encourage you at this point to process things, because that's one of the things that makes you fully human. Not to block it out and ignore it, because it's gonna, if anything that you're blocking out and ignoring right now is gonna show up again. Probably a year from now, 2 years from now, even 10 years from now. When at night, you're gonna knock on your mind, and then that thing that you never really processed or dealt with is gonna keep creeping back up and hitting you. And so, whatever it is that you're feeling, you process it, you cultivate it, because all of these things are to become fully human. Every emotion that you're feeling, love, hate, anger, sadness, curiosity, uncertainty, questioning, all of that, to process it is to become fully human. And then there'll be people who say, oh no, you have to distract yourself. Sometimes. But if you find yourself distracting yourself all the time, just like if you find yourself on autopilot, fast forwarding all the mundane moments of life, you miss out on a lot of opportunities to grow and become better. Because whatever it is that you're going through right now, there will be people in your life in the future who will be going through these things. And as much as it sucks right now, what can you do with it? You can make something positive out of it, which is to have the ability to be there for other people, but you can't do that until you process it yourself. You can't give away $1 million until you have $1 million. You can't help people find psychological and emotional comfort until you can do it yourself as well. And so cultivate it, all of it. All of it, not some of it, not most of it, not a lot of it, but all of it. It's very difficult, yes. And this is why some people become more fully human than others. And so, bad shit happens, 100%. Make something good out of it. It's not that the situation itself is good, but you make something good out of it. Like, you've heard that before? When life hands you lemons, make lemonade. Fuck that. Life hands you lemons, make Diet Coke. Let everybody wonder how the hell you did that. You sound like you've been hurt. Questions? That's true. That's true. Goddamn right. Lemons don't make lemonade. They just sit on the counter and get moldy. You've got to make the lemonade. So, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Rainy Tuesday.